Welcome back to NC-17. And today's episode, we have a sponsor. The sponsor is, again, Spin City / Static Tape, where they meet all your media physical needs, movies, vinyl, DVDs, Blu-rays, 4Ks. They run the gamut. They are located in Muskegon, Michigan, and you can get a hold of them also at statictapevideo.com. Now, today, our first official guest of the new year is Mr. Drew Robinson. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
That's good. That's good. So I met Drew last year at Motor City Nightmares. He's part of the Wendigoh Pictures family, which is a fantastic family. So let's get started with what drew you to your love of horror.
Uh, Unlike Nick and the rest of them, I kind of I shouldn't say I was a stranger to the horror genre, but like I've never known it of that magnitude since we went to that convention. I never knew that, you know, the world of horror was such a beautiful and close-knit community. Uh, I grew up like I think my first horror movie was probably Signs. I remember that freaked me the hell out as a kid, with the alien walking behind the bushes and all that stuff. I always can remember. I mean, that was probably when I was 6, and then of course I've watched the big three. Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, and Freddy Krueger. And I always remember really liking Freddy Krueger as a kid because I thought he was funny
Yeah.
in a sick, twisted way. But you know, as I grew older, you know, I I watched the classics like the Lon Chaney Jr. and the Bela Lugosi movie films. And I just fell in love with them. It was beautiful art. And one thing I've always said to Nick when we went to the convention is, man, um, all the movies you see nowadays, it's all CGI. All CGI. It looks so bad. But then, in the horror community is like the last genre of movie where you see more practical effects than you do CGI, and I always I loved it. So I'm here to stay in the horror community. I love it. I love it. It's
Oh yeah.
beautiful.
Oh yeah. And Lisa's in with us. Welcome in,
Hey,
Lisa. How was
hey.
your new year?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Good times.
Yeah, that's good. So we were just going over how he got into his love of
Mm.
horror. Uh, the thing is about horror is it's subjective. A lot of it. I mean, I agree. I love practical effects. But the thing about it is like you can overdo it somewhat here and there. But to me, like the big Hollywood blockbusters, yeah, they're good to watch. But movies like Flesh and just other independent movies, they hit different in my opinion. What would be your guys' opinion?
Yeah, personally, I love independent films and like independent whatever. So yeah, I'm really excited about this new movie coming out.
Oh yeah. And Drew?
Well, I wasn't originally part of Nick's crew. I went to go see it when it premiered the second time. I just remember this is amazing. It was I really enjoyed the film. I unfortunately I went in looking at it as a director. I mean, I didn't get to fully enjoy it until the uh second time when I watched it in the movie theater downstate that you put together.
Okay,
And
yeah.
I really got the story more. I went in looking at it as a director, kind of like an aspiring one. I'm like, oh, that's a cool shot. Oh, that's a cool shot. You know.
No, yeah.
But the second, it's you're supposed to enjoy it the first time around, and then maybe look at it like as a director. But I did the opposite.
Hey, that's fine. As long as you enjoyed it, that's what matters, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So let's dig into your like if you don't mind, your personal life. Is this your first foray, like your first adventure into the entertainment business, or
Well, I've always my dad was a radio DJ growing up, and he showed me a bunch of movies. I've always been a huge movie buff. Uh, I've always been a huge fan of movies like RoboCop, The Matrix, stuff like that, like the classic 80s, 70s, beautiful silver screen movies, and all this music as well. And I always kind of knew that I wanted to like do entertainment. That's what I want to do. And having the opportunity to work with Nick has been some of the coolest experiences and the biggest experiences that I've ever had at being an entertainer. I mean, I've tried doing things here and there. Like I grew up in the early 2000s, and everyone's like when you get to be a teenager, all the big thing is being a YouTuber. So I, I'm like, I'm gonna be a YouTuber. And I tried to do a couple things and I just had to learn that it takes more than just wanting to be it. There's steps to take to do it. Nowadays I'm like being an actor's cool and fun, and I do hope to direct some stuff someday. But working with Nick has been probably one of the greatest opportunities and the funnest opportunities that I've ever had to I got the chance to do.
yeah? Speaking of working with Nick, uh, so Bad Things Happen Here comes out later this year. Without giving away any spoilers, what can you tell us about the movie?
Well, when I auditioned, I just backtrack a little bit here. I knew I wanted to work with Nick for a while. Me and Nick went to high school together. We weren't best friends. We weren't super close, but I recognized that like some of the stuff that he was doing. And I've seen some of his short films. I'm like, that looks fun. So I'm like, I would love a chance to work with him. So when the auditions came around, I'm like, I gotta jump at this opportunity to work with, you know, a guy I grew up with essentially, and like he does great work from what I've seen, and Flesh was amazing, and so I auditioned. He liked me, so he cast me with. Started off as like three roles, which turned into four roles, which turned into five roles, because I was always I wasn't always there, but like when he needed extras, like for certain parts, you'll see he's like, Drew, can you fill this in for me? I'm like, sure, yeah, absolutely. But uh the first day of filming, uh I had well, I had already missed like a couple weeks of shooting because
Yeah.
they didn't need me quite yet. Uh I remember I ride a bike everywhere. I wrote his house is a lot farther away from mine, and I
Yeah.
ended up having to bike to his house. I didn't have to, but I biked to his house, and we didn't end up shooting that day. But the next day, man, I had like a blister on my thigh. It hurt so bad, and so the next day we did my parts, and I just remembered Nick will tell you that I was a trooper because like I was in so much pain, but I pushed through it because I wanted to do it so bad and I wanted to do a good job for him. So the first day of filming was certainly interesting. After it all healed up, we did some more stuff and it was a lot of fun. Roz, Nick, and I have become a. I always say that it's a good thing that we're making a horror movie, not a comedy, because when the camera's not running, all we're doing is joking and laughing. If we were in a comedy, nothing would get done. Nothing would get done.
Lisa, you got any questions?
Yeah, no, I mean, I just wanted to ask like your inspiration, like who inspires you for what you do?
Well, uh, a big fan. I've always been a big fan, ever since I like learned the behind the scenes of it, and like I've always been a bit fan of the big three, and like one of the big three, Jason Voorhees.
Mm.
I'm always a big fan of Kane Hodder. And I actually got the opportunity to meet him at the convention, and it was such a was starstruck moment. And like taking a picture with him, having him sign my Jason Voorhees mask uh in the center here. This was this
Okay,
was awesome.
that's
Uh,
awesome.
So like he is one of my biggest inspirations. Others being I've always really liked I'm drawing a name blank. Um he voiced on Thriller. I'm sorry. I'm
Vincent Price.
Vincent Price. Yeah, I've always been a fan of his work, and I've always loved his eerie voice, and all that stuff. And of course, Bela Lugosi, I've always been a fan of. So you know, ever
Uh,
since I watched Dracula.
Mhm.
uh, so here's a question. So, you say that your dad was a DJ and
Hmm.
like he showed you some stuff and like picking up things here and there. What kind of director do you think you would be when or if you do direct?
As a young, if you asked me this question like 10 years ago, I'd probably be like, I was all about gimmicks back then, and I knew that like every director had their little thing. Like Quentin Tarantino, the king of dialogue. J.J. Abrams got the lens flares and all that stuff. I wanted to be the king of pop culture references because a lot of the words I say is like quoted from either a song or a movie or a TV show or a book I read.
Oh yeah.
And, and I often do speak in like pop culture references, and it's always just because I'm just a huge fan of everything. Uh, but I as long as shots look cool and the story is fantastic, I would love to do anything
Yeah.
that I had
Uh,
the opportunity for.
I'm sorry. So
You're all good.
at the event that was held down here in October, during the fan questions, everyone kept asking zombie, zombie, zombie. Now here's the
Hmm.
thing: would you ever direct a zombie movie?
I think I would. I haven't directed anything,
Right, right.
but like I think that's the end goal for anyone like me who loves to see. I feel like the best directors are fans because
Yes.
they know what they want to see, they know how they want it to look, and I don't. I might try it. I don't know how exactly I would do it at this moment. But like especially with having a lot of extras play zombies, and the more people you have, I'm I can imagine that it's the harder to direct because you're directing more people and they have their own ideas of doing things. And sometimes it might not look right. Sometimes it's you get catch gold on camera, but either way, I might do it if I ever got the opportunity to, just to see how well I can do it.
All right. So let's go to filming of Bad Things Happen Here, because from when I met you guys last year to the time that we did the event, you guys seem like a close knit group. Like you're gonna have each other's backs no matter what, which is always an awesome thing. So during the filming of Bad Things Happen Here, were there moments where it was like, this might be a little bit too much that I can't handle, or was it just a smooth operation?
Well, I shouldn't say it's a smooth operation, but there was never a moment where like, oh, this is gonna, I don't know if I can do this. Like I don't know if Nick's gonna release bloopers with this movie like he did the other one, but uh during his premiere for Flash, but there a lot of the bloopers involve me, Nick, and Roz together in a room. Uh, there was one. I don't know if I can say this per se, but there was a scene where we had to use like this makeshift puke,
Yeah.
and it was like pea soup or something. It was like something pea based, and it smelled so bad. And it was we were working in like Nick's basement, and like it smelled so bad, and like we had to take breaks like frequently after each shoot because we were like, oh my god, it was just it smelled so bad in there. Uh, that it and Nick got it. I think Nick posted on Instagram pictures of it, but it was a moment of like I think he mentioned this in his interview, but like something went wrong with the pump tube
Yep.
to pump stuff out. So in a moment of just like sheer like quick thinking, he just and he got it all over himself, and it I'm like, don't hug me right now.
All right. So what does the future hold for like future movies and stuff like that that you might want to dive into? Like, what would be your subgenre in horror that you would like to dive into at some point?
Subgenre of movies. One of my favorite subgenre of movies, and not all of this subgenre is horror, but like I'm very big fans of kids on bikes. Like The Goonies, like Stranger Things, uh, Stand by Me type stuff. Like kids in the '80s running around doing their riding bikes and doing their thing. Getting into
Uh,
mischief. E.T. is another good example, but like that's one of my favorite subgenres of movies is kids on bikes.
all right. Lisa, you got anything?
So I know like you're working with indie productions right now, but would you ever want to expand out? Because you were talking about how you don't like the CGI as much, but just would you ever want to expand out to like bigger motion pictures?
Well, I don't know. Nick and I get along so well, and the more we grow, the more money like. The more movies we might get into bigger and better things. Hopefully, I I don't see it anytime soon, but you know things change in the future, and I don't know. Maybe if the story is good, you know, a lot of things today, you know, not always a good story. I I think the art is what matters, not about all. A lot of movies are getting political nowadays, and I'm not a big fan of that.
Yeah.
Uh, it's about having fun in the art form and making a good story. Movies are supposed to be about having people sit down and watch it and forget that they're in reality. You're sucked into this world now, just to forget about the troubles of life for just a few, like like maybe a half an hour to an hour, or even longer than that, depending on the length of the movie. Um, but it's uh it's something that, as much as I love doing stuff with Nick, I don't know if I want to do all horror movies for my entire career. I like, maybe do a couple sci-fis or an action here and there, but you know, I'm sticking with Nick for now. And if something cool that I like comes out in the future, I'm still gonna work with Nick, but uh maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, that was a good question. I mean, you make a good point though. Like, it's like you know you're always going to be there for Nick, which is a good thing, which is a great thing. But you don't necessarily have to. You don't want to pigeonhole yourself into being one type of character. Is what you're saying. You like to do sci-fi
Yeah,
action, which I get, you know. And my thing is like at the end of the day, it's like this is your passion. You should be able to do whatever it is you want to do. You know what I'm saying? Now, me, on the other hand, I would say this. I would say upon meeting you guys, upon getting to know you guys over the last couple months and seeing the film, and I'm really anticipating bad things happen here. Rough, I would say what you're doing now is great. You know, like I seen the trailer. I know what character. I know at least part of what character you play, but I think that to dive into the deep end right now would kind of just not be good. You know, if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But
Um,
speaking of Nick and Amanda, though, if I could give them a quick shout out, if that's okay. So with the NC-17 and movie recap, Nick won Best Director, in my opinion. He was the best director of last year, and Amanda won Best Actress because everything else was just so saturated with CGI and nostalgia and everything like that. And I was like, seeing Flesh kind of gave me more of a this is something. I'm not a poet, but this is something more fresh. You know,
mhm.
you know.
And if I want to be a director, I think I'd have to spend a lot more time with Nick because I thought I had a director's eye. Nick is like, I mean, a lot of it is like flying by the seat of his pants, but it's genius. Like, a lot of it is just so brilliant and like how did you even think of that? Like it's he is certainly, I think, going to be a master of his craft
I agree.
and one of the most, if he makes it to like big screen stuff constantly, I think he possibly would be one of the greatest directors of all time.
Oh yeah,
He's
I
a
agree.
he's a smart dude and he's a brilliant creative. He's a super creative. I love to see the way he comes up with stuff.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Oh yeah. So let's go into your character a little bit in Bad Things Happen here without giving away too much. But you are in the trailer. What was the process without again giving away too much? What was the process of getting you into that character?
Um, well, when you see my character in the trailer, well, I think all you see is its back and a little bit of the helmet I'm wearing.
Yeah.
Um, but that's the day that I had a blister and it hurt.
Oh,
So, um, I the mask, um, I don't know how much you can see the mask, so I don't want to say anything, but like I think at that moment, because it's a silent masked like entity. So I think my biggest inspiration at that moment was Pyramid Head.
oh
And
yeah.
just I'm wrapped in barbed wire, you can kind of see it too. And I just kept thinking Pyramid Head and like, the scene called for me to crawl out of the ground and rise above, Amanda's character. Uh so I kind of broadened my shoulders and I even lifted my head back to make the mask look tall to like gain like this, just to be this big huge threatening force. um I just kept thinking Pyramid Head. I'm like, what would Pyramid Head do?
Oh yeah. uh, what was it like acting with Amanda in your perspective?
Amanda is very talented herself. I didn't know Amanda until I started hanging around with Nick again, doing this movie stuff. I've never really knew Amanda, and ever since I met her, she's like so, very very kind-hearted person. Like some of the nicest person I've ever met. And working with her, uh, she can really get into character. Like man, she can scream. Like you actually believe that she's her character. She's like really good at like making you believe she's Mercy. You know, I think she's really talented as well.
Uh,
Just so I have the fortunate. Uh, I'm so fortunate to work with so many talented people that are like that. I grew up. Well, I grew up with Nick. I met the other two after Nick, but like we're all roughly the same age, and we grew up watching the same things essentially, and just really cool people.
yeah, that's cool. Uh, Here's a question, then I'll turn it back over to Lisa real quick. Here's a question. What would you tell your younger self back then that you didn't know that you know now?
Oh, a lot of things. Just trying to be a little entertainer when I was younger was always, trying dumb things like I have a YouTube channel and like 95% of it, especially the further back you go, it's cringe. I watch it now and I'm like, ah, God, why did I do that? But I think one of my first videos, I made a parody song in front of a green screen, using my dad's equipment at the time. Uh, I made parody of Rude by Magic, and I called it Tofu, and it's one of the worst things. And all my friends love it. Everybody I know loves it. They're like, "Oh man, it's really good." I don't know what everybody else sees. I hate this thing. It makes my spine tingle, and it's so poorly made. And like, I did it after 3 takes. I'm like, oh, it's good enough. I should have done more takes to it to make it better. But like, I guess you're growing as an entertainer if you look back at your old stuff and like, oh God, so bad. But everybody loves it. Everybody loves it. And I don't
Uh,
know why.
We're all our own worst critic, honestly.
Oh yeah, oh
So
yeah, oh
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Lisa's an author. She's right.
yep.
She's in the middle of writing her second book right now.
Yeah, and
Oh,
I'm
nice.
I'm I'm right there with you. When I go back and read what I wrote, I'm just like, why did I put that in there? So I feel you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lisa, you got any other questions?
Nope, we pretty much covered everything that I had.
All right. So we have about 10 minutes left. Uh, Drew, is there anything you'd like to say to the people who are going to see this video when it posts, and just anything you'd like to give to the audience?
Well, uh, do what you want to do. Uh, I know a lot of people say that just do what makes you happy, but it's true. Do what makes you happy. There's always a market out there for it, and if you know what you're doing, you can possibly corner that market. Me, I'm all about nostalgia, and so I like to channel older things from you know, from my childhood into the things that I do, and like kind of make it a part of, hey, remember this? And like people like, oh yeah, I do remember that. Make it your own. Be you. Do what you like. If you want to be an actor, be an actor. There's money in it. Maybe not right away, but you can make a living doing anything you want to do. If you want to be a some people do want to like write spreadsheets and do taxes. Like, do you, man? but I wanted to be an entertainer in any form, whether it's a musician, I sing from time to time, whether it's an actor or director. I just knew I wanted to entertain people and make people smile and forget about the troubles of the world. So, you know, do what you love.
Uh,
There's a market in it.
I'm, but here's where I'm gonna gloat about you because I do that with all my guests. But meeting you guys at Nightmares last year, I mean, to me, that was the best part of the whole convention, because it's like, I feel like not only did I meet a group of talented people, but I feel like, through time, it's like we've kind of bordered that line of friendship. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And the good thing is like the same with Lisa. I met her 2 years at Motor City Nightmares, you know, and me and Lisa now host the show. So, know, but you could tell good people just by who they are and how they act. And I could tell that the entire Wendigoh Pictures family is just phenomenal people. And Drew, yourself, in my eyes, and my wife has even, mentioned this a couple times. And in our opinion, you are one of the most down to earth people we've met, like in our entire life.
Thank
You
you.
know,
I appreciate that.
oh yeah,
I still gush over that convention. Like I talk to my parents sometimes and they're just so tired of me talking about, oh man, Novi was such a cool experience. I've never I've been I've ran into conventions, but I've never actually gone to a convention
yeah.
where, I'm a booth member and I've met so many cool people. And like I bought like 16 comic books while I was down there. And like this art piece that I really loved. And I've just I kind of made myself broke going down there, but I still gush about how cool that experience was, and I can't wait to do it next year,
Mhm.
Yeah.
can't
Oh, you
wait.
guys are going this year, right?
Yeah, 2024, yeah, we plan on doing it.
Yeah. Sorry. Getting over a cold. But anyhow, uh so Lisa's always a vendor there, and
Yep.
we were gonna have a table, but I kind of decided against it on the financial reasons. But anyhow, but we will be there, and if you guys are there again this year, like I told Nick and Amanda and Roz, and I think I even told you at the event that I'll interview all you guys together if it's possible, you know. And the thing is like the horror community is so strong and so connected with one another that one person can love Nightmare on Elm Street while the other person loves Critters. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But we all understand each other, you know. And with that, it's like good people. They're not far and few in between. They're all around, especially at Motor City Nightmares. It just seems like everyone's so cool, you know.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And you said Kane Hodder was one of your, like a big inspiration to you. You're a big
Oh
fan.
yeah, I have the story about how I met him too. That it's a great one. The hotel that we did the convention at had a bar, and I had grabbed a pint, and I was waiting. I had ordered food, and I'm waiting for my food, and I'm sitting there waiting for my food, drinking my beer, and I look over and I see him. I'm like, I had to do a double take. I'm like, is that Kane Hodder? And he's coming over. He's talking to some guys, and I'm like, whoa. I'm like, Mr. Hodder, can I buy you a drink? He's like, you don't gotta do that. Like, please, sir, allow me to buy you a drink. It's the least I can do, from enjoying your mood. He's like, all right. So I buy him a drink. He shakes my hand and, like, he's like, what's your name? Like, Drew Robinson. I told him about my booth in a little bit. And he's like, oh, you do movies? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, you play a mask guy? And I'm like, yes, I do, sir. So the masked bad guy. And he goes, pretty fun, right? And I'm right, like on the outside, I'm remaining cool, calm, and collected, but on the inside, I'm
Mhm.
freaking out. Like, and like he goes, he goes, thanks for buying me a drink. If there's a line at my booth later, just come up. Don't just skip people. Come on up, and we'll get you a picture. So he goes talks to other people, and like my food finally comes, and I'm eating it like, and I'm texting Nick with my other hand, like, dude, I just talked to Jane Hodder, and I bought him a drink, and dude, I'm freaking out right now, and he's like, bullshit, and I'm like, no, dude, it's for real, and he's like, that's so cool. So I'm like scarfing down my food and down my drink so I can go talk to those guys, and like I'm freaking out, like I'm shaking, like this was such a monumental thing for me, and like I had to go back up to my hotel room to just like kind of wind down for a minute because I was so wound up. And then later I went and took a picture with them. And then even later than that, Roz buys me this mask to have him go sign it. And I'm like, dude, he's like, no, here, go take this to Kane and have him sign it. I'm like, thank you guys. It was
All
so
right.
cool. We all had our own experiences. Like Nick was off doing something and me and
We
Roz
got
were at the
about
table.
we got about 2 minutes left. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Bill Mosley comes to our table, and we're like, well, Raj is like losing his mind there because like Bill Mosley comes to our table personally. They gave him a copy of our movie Flash, and then he bought a T-shirt from us, and it is just an incredible experience all around. Nick and Roz got to talk to Bill Mosley, have a full length conversation. And I met one of my favorite people, and it was just like I said, I keep gushing over it. Like it was
Yeah.
the convention was so fun, and I can't wait to do it next year, man.
Uh,
Last.
all right. So with our last minute and a half, I will talk about our sponsor for real quick, which is Spin City / Static Tape. They're based in Muskegon, and you can go to statictapevideo.com, and they got all your physical media needs. And with that, I would like to say first and foremost, thank you, Drew Robinson, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah, anytime. And as I tell everybody, you always have a home with NC-17. If you want to come out here and just say, hey, you got a booger in your nose, doesn't matter. And with that, I'll say see you guys later and stay NC-17.
Peace.